All right. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to Concordia University's FARR Space. If you haven't been here earlier today, it's great to have you here now. Thank you for joining us for today's event, Interrogations, Artists, Books, and Social Causes. Part of the Volume 7 series, hosting here at FARR Space. Now, just to help situate you, we're streaming to YouTube. We are live from FARR Space, and we are located here on unceded Indigenous lands in Tiohtià:ke, Montreal. Now, you might know this part already, but at FARR Space, we work with our university community to help mobilize knowledge. We co-create daily activities that examine research questions, projects, things happening across the university. And we're running this event as a live stream Zoom meeting, so we welcome comments and questions there in the chat if you're joining us. Those of you here in the space, we'd love to have questions from you also. Just raise your hand, we'll bring a microphone over to you a little later on. Okay, I'm now going to pass it over to the director of ARCMTL and Volume 7, Volume Montreal, Louis Rastelli. Louis, it's great to have you.
Thank you very much. It was a real pleasure to have such a day like this devoted to art publishing and artist books here at the Fourth Space. And thanks to Concordia and the Merediths especially, and everyone who's helped out with at the Fourth Space for this. Volume 7 is, well, 7th edition of our annual gathering about art publishing, artist books. And it's always fun to be able to show some nice examples of the types of things that we really like to see at the art book fair, and also what I think makes the power of publishing and art publishing, especially fine crafted artist books and zines, what they can do. And I think the theme of Interrogations speaks to books that prompt questioning, that might actually interrogate social issues themselves, but in very interesting ways, using the book form, using surprising elements, playing with the different aspects or ways that you can create books to underline the messages, or to encourage further interrogation or exploration of themes, especially themes that can be a bit unusual or different or challenging of norms and that kind of thing in artist books. So we are lucky to be able to have our colleagues from the Fine Arts Reading Room will be presenting some selections from the Fine Arts Reading Room, which is right across the EV building. That's right, over that way. We also have from Lithuania, Vilma is here from No Routine Books, a publisher that has, in my mind anyway, generally picked very interesting topics and themes, very often on either ecology or issues of being, shining a light on different things that we might not think about that much in a very, very interesting and very well-crafted way. A lot of playfulness with the form of artist books. And so we're going to be able to show a bunch of them during the presentation. But I'm going to start by throwing it to the FARR, Ali and a colleague, to perhaps start with your presentation on the theme, and then we're going to get into some specific books to show off around this fancy table here. So I guess if you want to start for the presentation.
Hi, is this working? Yes. My name is Ali. I'm one of the staff at the Fine Arts Reading Room. I'm with my coworker Elena today. We wanted to just start off kind of giving some context about the Fine Arts Reading Room and kind of what our position is as an organization, as a student organization, in terms of how we interrogate and how we encourage students here to interrogate social issues through artist books specifically. So the Fine Arts Reading Room is a student-run library here at Concordia. We are in the EV building, second floor, EV Junction. Our catalog highlights and promotes small and alternative publishings and publications and print-based resources. We have an extensive collection of zines and art books, most of which are self-published or published by small publications or collectives. We run under a mandate, which which is essential because we run under the colonial institution of Concordia, and we serve the student community here. And our mandate And by extension, everything we do and offer strives to be accessible to our diverse membership and is done within an anti-oppressive framework. Our mandate is really important when it comes to like the catalog that we keep and the collection of books that we have. We prioritize and seek to have books that are written about the people that the books are about, like people that have the lived experience of the subject of the book. That's really important to us. We focus on texts that aren't easily accessible at municipal libraries or at the Webster. We try to give these resources a place to live for students to interact with.
Yeah, so thank you. To kind of like enact what the library stands for and our goals, like a lot of our programming is directed towards the fine art undergraduate student community because this is like where our funding comes from. And we do this through like several different ways. One thing is definitely like keeping a catalog that serves this population, and as well, like we always take requests from the student body for things that they want to see. And then as part of our annual programming, we always do 2 residencies every year and publication grants, which is an opportunity for students to receive funding to create small publications such as zines, artist books. And as well, our publication funding application is open now. So if anyone is an undergraduate fine arts student and is interested in receiving funding to publish a book, definitely look into that, and we can talk after as well if you want more information about that. And then our residency project really strives to give a student the opportunity to do research in the library and engage with the catalog as well as the space. And currently this semester, we're going to have a resident who's focused on storytelling and whatever like scope that means to them. And in the past, we've had residencies that focus on social change and kind of interrogating histories in Montreal, which is one of the books we brought that we'll share in a bit. And yeah, I guess for us, like when we were thinking about coming today and the theme of interrogations, we were really thinking about like what are the benefits of DIY publishing in terms of enacting social change. And something we talked about a lot was like having, when you aren't bound to the rules of like a publisher or an institution, you have so much more freedom of how you want to disseminate information if you have like nobody that you have to answer to in terms of what information you're allowed to share. And as well, like being able to create DIY publications really gives the opportunity for like very easy dissemination. It's very easy to like hand out these books at these little zines at like protests. They're cheap to produce, so it's easy to have like a large quantity. It's just a great way to get information around. And as well, in DIY publishing, especially like as we are part of a academic institution, it's interesting to have these sort of publications that are more accessible in a way and don't necessarily rely on the use of like academic language or like very specific formats that are only accessible to a very like specific subsect of people, I guess. And yeah, a lot of the publications we hold are very much focused on like sharing knowledge as opposed to like gatekeeping knowledge.
Yeah, and with that, I think we really, we like to think of research as something that is never something you're doing alone. It's always something that's done in community, in shared spaces. It's something that you're engaging with other people through, and yeah, we value that as a form of research rather than just the heavy theory that sits in the Webster. But I wanted to show an example of one of the publications that we funded this past winter. And this example isn't, do you want to flip through? This is not an example of a book that necessarily addresses social change or engages with a social issue, but this text is really stating what the book's roles are in addressing social change. It's full of quotes from publishers and art book makers, and it really encapsulates this idea of what books can do and what printed material can do and the role that printed material has in our lives and our everyday. So we funded, this book was made by Scott Weiss, an undergraduate student at Concordia, and with our funding, they were able to produce 50 copies of this text, which were disseminated at the vernissage that we did at the end of our publication grant last winter. So this is just a really direct example of our role in disseminating information, and especially information that is collected and authored by students at the university.
Maybe I'll show this one, which is called Pulling the Strings, by Fred Woodworth, and I believe this publication is from 1999, so it's a bit older, but I found this in our collection the other day, and I kind of thought this follows that theme, talking about kind of the benefits of DIY publications or smaller publications. And let me see if I can find a little excerpt in here. But yeah, it goes on and on. There's a lot of great content in here, just kind of exploring the history of printing and the history of smaller publishers.
And this is a more recent example of an acquisition we got that engages with similar themes. Interviewing artist publishers, small-scale publishers, just about the benefits of small-scale publishing. And it's really beautiful also.
I'm very excited to show this one. This is one of our publication grants our publication grant recipients from winter 2024, so the last semester, and this was made by Emma Garand and Manouche Alboris, and it's called A Palimpsest of Resistance, Unearthing, Mapping, Animating the Ghosts of Concordia University. And this is a very beautiful publication that they've made in this box. And let me show maybe this one. It's of all these little folders. And this publication talks about the kind of the histories of Concordia University, of not only the buildings and the land we're on, but also different histories of resistance amongst the student body that have been kind of buried by the university and aren't talked about. And a lot of the things that are shared in this publication are histories I wasn't aware of, so it's a very beautiful publication to familiarize yourself with resistance movements within the student body. This section here talks about several different instances of student repression by the Concordia administration and how students resisted against these different things. And it's kind of like going through history. The first one is in 1969, and it like continues to the present day as well, and has some like visual representations in here as well. This is like, yeah, such a beautiful publication that we were so blessed really to receive, and like very impressed by all the research and craftsmanship that went into this. And the last section of it includes a blank section that kind of implies that this history or this archiving project is to be continued and is kind of a never-ending process, especially when these sort of histories are buried, or as I think they're referred to in this publication, are living ghosts, that there are still things that are like being unearthed, and like we're still learning about these histories since they're in a way hidden from us.
How many copies were made for the artists?
I actually am not sure. So we have this copy, and I don't know if they made a copy for themselves or if they only made a copy for the Fine Arts Reading Room. I actually was also wondering this, since it is a very intricate project and everything is like, I think it's laser cut on the top, yeah. And then there's also
Concordia,
the
yeah.
inside.
And there also.
Yeah.
On all sides.
Wow.
I know, it's so beautiful.
Yeah, I find that that's a really good example of just like the visual elements that a book can have that draw someone in, whereas just a book that is like telling this history, that is just a regular published bound paperback book, might not draw as large of an audience in. This is like really interactive. You're really face to face with this history, and like Elena said, like with this. This last section left blank, it like really makes you consider the implications of the book, like a lot more than just, you know, a sentence saying this is ongoing. It's really like a physical representation of a conclusion that is ongoing. And yeah, on that topic, I pulled some zines from our collection that do something similar in engaging with the history of repression, and also provide, like this one, for example, Rules for Picketing. Like, this is a guide for organization, and like it lists rules and things to know and guidelines, and like it really can help you build your organizing skills. But an example like the one here is really investigating a history of repression and history of protest, and sort of outlining what went wrong and what went well. So these are like two examples where one is engaging with history and the other is just giving a set of rules, but both are really talking about similar themes of repression and organizing. So that's just an example of like the amount of zines that we have and the amount of zines that are about the same topic but are presenting the information in different ways, which is, again, something that will reach a wider audience.
Yeah, I'll show this if we have time for
Sure.
another one. This is facing the correct way. This was a residency project, also from last winter, from Pascal Paget who was doing research into the history of medical racism in Quebec. And they did a lot of research, including interviews, and this artist also works in a hospital, so they're very surrounded by this type of institution every day. So it's something like a history that is relevant to their own life. And it's in French, but they kind of explore as well this history of resistance against the structure of racism in hospitals. And they really unearthed a lot of documentation of this resistance that is very hard in a way to locate, partially because a lot of it is oral history, and so it's not something that is easy to just look up online necessarily. But yeah, it's like very much a research creation project, and they used a lot of different mark making techniques, as well as I believe there are some cyanotypes in here and different pressings. So it's very tactile and also like very engaging to explore and look through. And this really gives the writing this sort of like affective experience when you're exploring this publication. Yeah, maybe we can shift it to
All right, I guess
one of you.
we're on a roll, showing some pretty beautiful works there. I guess if you want to switch back over, would you like to present, Vilma, some of these?
Sure.
And we'll take our turns for that.
Hello, good afternoon. First of all, thank you, Luis, for having us here. We thought of you these last 5 years, because you approached us last time when we were in Montreal in 2019 with the offer to come to participate in your FARR volume. But of course, we had no chance. And this year was a very good year for us that we got a grant to come here and present our books here. And also we don't have this book here today, but we published a book by artist from here, from Montreal, Michel Campeau, and we will have a presentation on Sunday.
On Sunday.
Yes. But from the beginning, maybe to enter the topic you today are having, we are from Lithuania, from Vilnius, publishers, and we publish books for the last 10 years. Our publishing platform, we don't like to call ourselves publishing house because we don't publish that many, and that many books a year, for example, depends. We can publish 5, maybe sometimes we can publish 1. And we usually publish limited edition books of 99 copies, and it's a very conscious decision. Also not to have too many books, because people are publishing a lot, and you have to think about trees and so on. So, and the way we choose our artists, it's also very personal, and different ways of decision making, I guess, because, for example, we collaborate with the Latvian photography Biennale, and usually they make competition, and one of, we have, when the applicants send the material, we choose one person of whose work we publish one book. So every 2 years we publish one book from there. So, for example, these 2 books we have here on the table are from there. And also Anthony Howley, who is from New York, that was also open call during the quarantine.
Okay.
And it's like we do not seek profit, but we look for the very interesting artist and who would look good in a book format. Usually we say that our books are continuation of exposition. So I think that's how all comes together on our work table in our studio. And probably I can show
if you want to switch over to...
As you mentioned, 29 landscapes, first of all. So probably I will, by Armans Anje from Latvia. So probably I can show it, but I would need probably Gita's assistance. Also, it's worth to mention that we are two in this publishing platform. I'm not alone. And Gitas is the maybe mastermind also, because he's a really talented book designer who I think in yearly youth was making zines. Then he became book designer, and then we met, and somehow together we could make artist book and some kind of monography come together. So it's like not. So talking about this project. It was an artist who was making landscapes, different kind of landscapes. Somehow they had like a meaning for him, but he was using this very old technique of liquid collodion, no? Probably in English. Not liquid, wet collodion plates. And usually, somehow, in an area where we live, we have this technique became quite popular, and what we liked about him that he didn't try to make it very perfect, because this is very natural materials what he uses, and then after you don't use the plate for like a month or materials for a month or two, or you don't preserve it right, they start to get moldy. Yeah. And he was like, well, that's how it goes with this material. I don't really care if they become like if you put the wet collodion on the plate and it has bubbles, then it has bubbles. And we like this imperfection. And also what he did, that he got some negatives, I think, no, from NASA archives, and he mixes them in between the Latvian landscape. So you kind of look through the line and you're like, what's going on here? And why we chose this kind of form of book, we didn't see the exhibition actually, but he was presenting documentation of his exposition, and he would mount them in line, like really long line in the museum. And we thought, well, if the author is showing his work this way, then probably the book can be this way also. And so we decided about this form. He agreed and made a sequence, and that's how we have it. And also this decision in the beginning to publish 99 copies, also like I mentioned before, it's probably a good decision not to have too many books. And I wanted to say more. The time change is a little bit influencing us also, because it's a bit late now and at home. That just horizon joins like the Earth horizon and the Mars horizon, and it's coming like kind of. It has to somehow end up in your imagination, and. Yeah, and it's kind of, you have to work for the book, like to see it all through. And in the end, there is a text by the author, I mean, if you reach that, then you kind of get to read the text by Armand Anje. Okay. Then the second book we chose to present, it's another person from Latvia, Kristina Krause-Slutska. And the book has a long name, Vibration of the Material Universe, Thirst for Gold. And she was working with somehow the concept of Kodak materials polluting water. Like that photography, when you are making analog process, you are polluting the water. And she decided to, she also in the process, she was talking about the person who created Kodak, how he was successful but died alone and unhappy but rich. And this thirst for gold somehow plays around there. But what she did and what attracted us a lot, that she was using photography materials to get the image without the camera. So she worked in the laboratory where she was injecting the chemicals into the water and putting the light-sensitive paper on it and getting all these abstract materials, abstract images. And there are probably many imagery like that, but for us was that you can see those images and think of probably what is really close to you. Like you can see stars, you can see, I don't know, children, you can see some kind of abstractions, I don't know, food maybe, I don't know, some kind of poison. But what she was doing, I think she was saying that this beautiful imagery was made while she was polluting water. And we liked that her imagery was not that very concrete, and it was kind of nicely lining up in this Leporello book. And there is a text also somewhere hidden between the images, so you kind of meditate, like you go through it, and at some point you can read what author was thinking. And also it's published in 99 copies. And we made also her exhibition, and in the end, it's here. In the end, the images, what she made, at first I thought that she will make a really big images, because you can get like a big color photography paper, but she makes them really 9 by 13 centimeters, and then she scans, like everything is really tiny, and then she enlarges in the exhibition and you have just prints and somehow positioned in the space. There's the beginning. Nice. So this is this book, and then the third book we decided to present. I take a shoe with one hand, I think. It was like we made an open call. In the first quarantine, we called it. It was in 2020, and I don't know. I think people were sitting online a lot, and we got quite a few applications. And Anthony Howley sent us not 365 drawings, but maybe 200, and they were all called Dear Donald. So every day, I think when Donald Trump was elected as a president in the United States for a year, he was drawing and writing like, I don't know, what he felt that day about Donald's behavior. And when we saw it, I thought, this is crazy. Like what's going? I mean, we are aware of politics and what's going on. I mean, at the same time, it's very far away from us, but also it's very close because, like, what's happening in our region and what's happening in the United States, I think it's all influence each other, and like you never know what's going to happen.
Fascism. Yeah.
So in the end, we thought how to put 365 images in a book and not, I don't know, like not to have a monography like this thick. So we thought of this rip-off calendar, I guess it's called. And in the end, it's not 365 pages, but close to it. Also he had his friends working on some spells, so they were also visual artists, but the spells we didn't put in the calendar, we put it as a separate book. And so we thought that if someone buys the book and they can go through and just rip one like page every second day or every week if they want. It's like I don't know, maybe like life becomes easier like that. And yeah, it's kind of small, nice, neat book, also 99 copies. And we had a presentation, I think, in a New York Art Book Fair, but that year was online version because it was everything totally shut it down.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, we still have the book, and sometimes it's like really on demand.
I hope you won't have to make more of them. But,
Actually, our decision is not to make second editions. What is sold out, that is sold out. And sometimes we would like to have more of those books which are sold out because they're really nice and we like how the authors worked and how the publication was successful. But I think it's nice to look forward to find the new things than to get stuck in what you did 10 years ago.
well, as long as there isn't another Trump to do a book about. But that's what the spells are for, I guess. So. Wow, beautiful, very, very nice. Thank you for presenting these. I guess I'll just finish with a few selections from the archives at ARCMTL, where we have systematically, over 20-something years by now, kept copies of books and productions that go through the book fairs, through Exposé, and through Volume, and through the network of collaborators and partners who occasionally just decide to get rid of some of this kind of stuff. And we're happy to, very lucky to be able to hang on to some. So I brought three examples of books, two of which are collective and which interrogate, in this case, the past by starting. This is Les Éditions de Possible, which unfortunately doesn't exist anymore, but they put out a number of very interesting book objects and books in Montreal in the mid-2010s. In this case, they had a number of poets and authors react to the 1940s manifesto called the Refus Global, which was total rejection. This was a group of Quebec artists that decided that everything was wrong. I can only imagine living in 1940s Quebec, with the church dominating everything. They were among the first to do this kind of statement, and many of those artists became quite important in their own right over their own careers. The interesting thing with this project was the first volume actually reprints many of the texts and quotes and phrases from the original Refus Global. There's a very interesting mapping and cartography of the texts with symbols and numbering, which the invited poets then spoke to in two different other themes. There was the Refus Global and then the cage. There was a sense that it was time again to break out of the norms, to say perhaps that everything is wrong, and to look back and see what has changed, how come it wasn't enough in that original statement. And so the cage explains the current frustrations and many of those things in a second volume. Very interesting. All of them have a hand-printed back cover. And the third one is a braquage, breaking the cage. Sort of an attempt, literary, at another take on the refus global and reconfiguring and re-indexing the different lines, the dialogue between the past and present, between the poets involved in this. And all of it is accompanied by a map, which should allow one to read through all of the texts and then interrelate all these different themes that were identified and branch them out. Now, it's a bit metaphorical, because I think the idea is that starting with the refus global, there's a whole lot of activism and action and change that can happen after that. I just found that it's a particularly interesting project for a collective artist book project, and again by Éditions du Possible from 2010 in this case. In a similar fashion, but quite different assortment, or a different organization of artists, there's an organization in Montreal called Les Impatients. They've been around for quite a few years, 30 or 40 years. Their mandate is to support, is to provide arts programming for people with mental disabilities or challenges, chronic depression, all kinds of things. It's the place where you can go and create art with others in a similar situation and accompanied by various professional artists. They do one artist book per year. And I brought this one out from 2010, which was their 2010 edition, 2009 edition, called Side Effects, Les Effets Secondaires. And they had an open call for their different members of their art center and the community that they serve to come up with texts, drawings, pictures. And the theme of side effects was illustrated in the works themselves, but they made a decision to print them all on puzzle paper. The idea being this really illustrates the challenges in the situation of having mental health problems. You're being treated, you have a variety of medications, but then you have to deal with the side effects. The sense is that you've pulled everything together, but then it might just fall apart again. And it's a really beautiful assortment of, I guess, a mix of professional and amateur art, expressive and metaphorical texts. Luckily, there's a page in between in case the puzzles all start falling apart. And once again, a very, very playful, clever format, and where the form really, really reflects the theme of dealing with these unpredictable side effects. Very, very nice work, and I would recommend looking up Les Impatients. They often have copies of their annual artist book available, and I know that they were actually, their local was, they lost their local in a fire last year on Sherbrooke Street, but I've heard that they're going to be moving to a new place, and it should be, they should continue operating as it were.
Can I ask something about
Sure.
that one? It just like from here, it looks like they're all the same, like puzzle cut pieces. Is it part of it that, part of the experience that you can like interchange it with other sections?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's actually possible to break them all apart and then to try to put back together a mix of different ones. I think once again that speaks to the theme of the challenge of managing various side effects from medications and so on. That's exactly right. You can actually mix and match or create your own work that might reflect your own experience based on all of the different puzzles that are there. So I will just put this one aside because I only have one last one. It would really be great to be able to take a few questions. The last one I selected is quite different. It really speaks to interrogation, but this is a solo work. this was an artist from, can you just give me the paper that's there? Oh yes, it's a Paras Vijan. It was a photographer from India who lived in Montreal for a number of years and decided to present this artist book simply called Once Upon a Night. And they purposefully did not want to explain too much about it, including where it is. But essentially what it does is invite you to spend the night, as he did, going around and taking pictures. And it's presented in one non-stop accordion book of photos. They actually all end up connecting. But through it, you see a combination of things like a crammed minibus, people partying in it, more of that. You get a sense of a bit of obviously the traffic chaos and all that. Suddenly you have somebody holding a gun, not too sure what's going on. You've got some animals. Once again, it's an extremely mysterious presentation of one night, just one night. Once Upon a Night, as it's called. Some people stop to smile for a photo. You've even got some animals, street vendors. Mostly people seem to be having a good time. And it really leaves it to the person of experiencing this to make some sense of that. You may have just gotten a slice of life, a sense of what this night was, but I really enjoy how the form of it, you could even spread it out. The artist actually recommended doing a sort of a pinwheel thing, and you can actually, this isn't so great for the overhead, but you can set it up on the table and flip through it sort of vertically. It's just another example of what can be thought of. As the one thing I love about artist books is that no one's thought of everything. There's always something new. There's always something, oh my God, I didn't think of mixing this with that, printing this in this way. Anything from the sequence, playing with narrative, linearity, non-linearity. There's so much potential. And I was really happy to be able to show you some of these and on the theme of interrogation. And I guess without further ado, if there's any questions from the crowd, it would be great to hear them. So I think we're getting.
I got a mic ready here.
Minutes, so,
yeah, if there's anyone online that has any questions, pop them into the chat. We can read them out. If anybody here, though, just raise your hand. I'll just bring this very microphone over to you. Oh, we've got one.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much. It was an amazing presentation of publications, and they really strike me as publications, but also works of art. And it's kind of in a very rare medium that's a publication and also a work of art. I'm kind of curious to know if any of your venues or your platforms also, I know you do fairs, for instance. Do you also organize exhibitions to kind of select or curate and highlight publications that are part of your practice or your work?
We did exhibitions also. There was in a national gallery in Vilnius. We were part of some book event. It was not a book fair, but it was some kind of book weekend or something like that. And we had exhibition. Also, last year we had our book exposition in Poland. And Gittes made like a stand for where like each book had its shelf. It's like a table, but in few layers and overlapping each other. So like different kind of books were had their place. So we do, and we like our books to be able to unfold and just be like that they are able to be shown. I don't know how to say the right sometimes. But so yeah, we do that practice, but of course that's like more investment than gain. But then we participate in fairs, and it's not our only activity we do in our life. We have other jobs. So this is usually it's like more like artist to artist activity, or like what we gain from the books we put back into the book publishing or exhibitions. And that's a really good thing to do.
Have you had museums buy books or regularly from you?
Yes, regularly, since we don't publish like every year 5 books or 10 books or 12 books, so then they are like a little bit probably also, but I think we had some libraries and museums buying books, maybe Gitis is usually more better with the names, but Metropolitan Museum, I think, bought, and the women publication library of at the Goldsmiths University in London bought some, and there's some other places where we have our books.
I mentioned that could bring hopes that exhibits might pop up elsewhere and from some places that have purchased them. It's great stuff.
By the way, actually, somebody from Canada, I don't remember the person's name, from Toronto, bought one book we published. Actually, it's mine and my sister's common project about our family, and they're making a project about authors working with archives, and it's like in that topic. And I think that book will participate at the exhibition in Toronto. So.
Wow. Great.
Thank you. Yeah, for us at our library, we've done some collaborations with other student-run groups at Concordia. So last year, we did a collaboration with the Valve Gallery, which is a student-run art gallery here, that was focused on the theme of manifestos. And in this exhibition, we invited, I think it was it 10 artists in the gallery, and then we had another 10 artists who contributed to a publication that we put out last year, interacting with existing manifestos and also presenting manifestos that they had written, and as well as some projects that were just interacting with like the concept of manifestos, however they interpreted that. And then we also were part of an exhibition at the FOFA Gallery, and our contribution to this was entitled "Please Whisper Like the Wind in the Trees," which is, I guess, kind of like a slogan that we have written in the library. I'm sure a student librarian of the past wrote that. So we kind of, recycled that. And that contribution was dealing with themes of ecology and specifically about water, access to water like in our region. And we pulled a large selection from our catalog dealing with those themes and created like a mini reading room outside of the Fine Arts Reading Room. And I know this has happened in the past with past FARR cohorts as well. There's like a history within our group of having these sort of collaborations and creating these little mini reading rooms where our collection can become accessible to a larger group of people and kind of show people what the FARR is as well, because we're sort of hidden in a way in a little nook and not a lot of people always know where to find us or that we exist. So yeah, we love doing these collaborations to kind of create little like focus areas within our collection and share the collection with more people.
Yeah, that's a good point. And well, I think we're due at ARCMTL. We did collaborate just before the pandemic, an exhibit of zines around the 20th anniversary of Expo Zine here in the Webster Library. It's always great to be able to, I mean, an archive generally serves museums and exhibit spaces and researchers. It's not somewhere that's as easy to access as a library. So the material that's kept is, the goal is that people get interested in it enough to maybe ask to borrow it for a thematic exhibit or something. But I think we'd be due to do a new exhibit in Concordia, perhaps, of artist books and about volume, now that we've run volume for 7 years. But that's essentially, that's why we keep the material, and I think exhibits are definitely important, especially for rare works. I mean, when you're making just 99 of them, or just 1 or 2, or you don't even know how many might still exist, it's not so easy to have people come in and just flip through them and get them all dirty and stained. Exhibits, especially in a place that's not a high-end art gallery, a place that has a lot of traffic, has a lot of people coming through, is a great way to honor the artists and to be able to honor the. This is why we archive this stuff, essentially, and I look forward to getting more involved in getting artist books out there. But there is a lack of interest or recognition, I should say, in the established museums pretty much everywhere on art publications and books and zines. Hopefully what may have changed is a blockbuster exhibit last year in Brooklyn, Copy Machine Manifestos. It was a massive, huge exhibit of zines made by artists in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And it was absolutely incredible. It's actually touring now. It's in Vancouver right now. And I hope that inspires museums to consider displaying books and zines, artist books, instead of just paintings and works, because there's a bit of a barrier there that we need to break through. And even collectors and museums, I'm glad that some of them are buying your works, but there's still a bit of a disinterest in book arts on the part of museums for whatever reason. They always want to see the painting by the known artist. But I think we can help break through that, and by presenting more and more of these works out there. Any other questions? Once we're pretty close to the end there.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Anyone online that's no at the moment? Well, okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much. This has been amazing. What a great afternoon celebrating the book. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming in. Thank you. It's great to have the Fine Arts Reading Room in the space. It's great to have Louis, of course. Thank you, Concordia University Press, for bringing this all to us and helping us host Volume 7. And I know there's more happening. And maybe this is too much of an admin reveal, but maybe it was like an early version, prototypical version of a Fine Arts Reading Room in the Bourget building where I first discovered Fish Piss, a legendary Montreal zine. But that's just too much about me.